we have desired and given the nudge for the banks to be absolutely professional in running your banks. That professionalism is what I think you should give more attention to in the coming years, to see how post-corona you're not going to be the same banks. Yes, there's a lot of amalgamation happening, and I can always wish to have each one of the amalgamated banks to be as big as SBI. We can have 8 more SBIs in this country post amalgamation. I'm sure you're putting your energies into seeing how best you can be, not just in size, but also in the kind of diversified activities that you can undertake. And therefore, India is thirsting for large banks. We want large banks as much as we want smaller finance companies. We want smaller banks. We want NBFCs because they can reach out. And I'm glad that the RBI has already worked out the co-origination rules for you all to function. So there they will be in the far-flung areas reaching out to small customers. And here you shall be meeting up with the new growing India, the new changing India, the globally aspiring India. And therefore, I don't see a contradiction when I say I want large banks, large enough to meet with growing, aspiring India. At the same time, smaller banks, banks on the tap, so that they can reach out to far-flung areas, rural areas, meet with small customers and give them all the facility. So I would want you all to look at professionalizing your banks, making sure the amalgamated banks can become big enough in terms of core strengths. I'm very grateful indeed to the CVC in working together with the banks, tailor-making your training courses, essentially because we are keen that the fear that was voiced when we came in 2014 about the 3 C's has to go away from your minds. No more fear of the 3 C's. The CVC himself is tailor-making training courses so that you can take commercially justifiable decisions and you need not fear taking decisions. I'm so glad that all of you are working together with the CVC, and therefore that will help to remove that fear that came into your minds during certain unfortunate period. But now when you professionalize, when this fear of the 3 C's is going away, I honestly wish to see that dynamism and robustness which should be there in the banks. I was glad Rajkiran Rao spoke about the stressed asset review that you're doing through a committee. That's well taken, because your NPA management will have to be taken up seriously, particularly after the coronavirus. It is up to the banks also to efficiently manage it. And therefore that particular work which you referred to, Chairman, in the IBA is very, very important, and you should really undertake that. On the amalgamation, just a few words before I finish. Scaling up of your operation is important. You need to be big enough to meet with newer demands on banking. You also need to be keeping up the spirit of Indian banking, which has been the case all through. Understand the pulse in the ground. Understand the need of the customer. Be sensitive to his requirements. You're not going to bend any rules, but unless you understand your customer, you can't even deal with his problem. After all, only when the customer who you serve survives and prospers is a bank going to survive and prosper. Therefore, legitimate concerns of the customers will have to be attended to, first of all heard and then attended to. So I would just think amalgamation should not just remain as an exercise to bring 2 or 3 banks together. It should now become an organic mechanism to grow, and to grow to such scales that the new demands from the industry, from the economy, from businesses can all be met up in a changing world. Ultimately, there's one word which I want to say: I've always felt banks in India have treated their customer as one of their own. Similarly, I want you all to ensure that each one of your staff, top down, your executive, your officers, your managers, your sub-staff, all of them are also made to feel that they are also part of you as a family. Each one of them, after all, did their very best when they served being a part of the bank. Post-retirement, they cannot be forgotten. Post-retirement, they cannot be left to fend to themselves. I think it is important that as much important the customer is your ex-staff who have retired, who have now gone back to be with their families. Each one of them did their best when they were there. And I'm sure many of us will also be retiring, and therefore we can't be treating retired staff differently. As a former defense minister, one little message which I used to admire there, I would like to pass on here to the Indian Banks Association, is defense personnel always treat the defense families as one. When the men are out there in the borders, their families are taken care of. When they are retired, the families are taken care of. They are one family always, ex-servicemen or servicemen. Similarly, I wish to see that culture in banks so that all bank staff and their families are one. And whether in service or retirement, you will have a thought for them and a care for them. So with these words, I want to thank you very much for giving me this opportunity for talking to you all during the 73rd Indian Banks Association's annual general meeting. I wish you all the very best. Thank you.